Good morning, this is Peggy from Roar. So today my guest is David Lafaurie. Thank you, David, for being with us today from Paris. And David is a senior relationship manager at Aurel BGC and is focusing on fixed income. So thank you, David, for being here.
My pleasure, Peggy.
Thank you. So let's start with the first question. So from your perspective, what do you think will be some of the major lasting impacts of COVID on the financial services industry?
I would say that the major lasting impact, the biggest challenge was to manage home working in the capital markets. Because, I mean, as you know, for years, forever, the financial market is, the organization is on trading floors. So you have these big trading floors with hundreds and thousands of people with the constraints of one, monitoring the risk, two, securing the financial transactions, and three, making sure that you share information, that prices, quotes, market clients' feedback is shared by the biggest number of people. So that's why you keep these activities at the same place in these big cities. You have 3 or 4 or 5 locations. So I name Canary Wharf, Wall Street, and Frankfurt, and the West on the east side. So the challenge was within a very short period of time, and this was about 24 to 48 hours. In France, the president spoke on TV on Saturday night with a lockdown effective on the Tuesday morning. So mean that within 1 or 2 days, you had to find a solution to send home hundreds, 50 or 100% of hundreds of people, and making sure that on the Tuesday morning, everybody was, all the risk takers, traders, sales, research, middle office, all the STP, the front to back organization was home with computer screens, secure phones, and Bloombergs and everything. So this was a challenge. That the surprise is that, I mean, the good surprise is that it went quite well. It means that there was no break. The service was maintained to clients. It's still today, so after 2 or 3 months of lockdown, because as you know, the lockdown was quite severe here in Europe. Yeah. After it was released, most of the banks are keeping most, if not all, of the workforce home. And the question is whether it will last until September. But some are speaking about keeping everybody home until the end of the year. So that was a major change for the financial markets, and at the end it works quite well. The view is that it's working smoothly, which is, would that last? I would say that it's really a win-win. A win for the banks, the employer, who basically don't have to keep these big real estate, the buildings on the balance sheet, because this is a cost. I mean, when you have 2,000, 3,000 people working in Canary Wharf, that's a lot of real estate. Win for the traders, for the risk takers, because working from home, as you know, and in any other industry, gives more time for the family, more flexibility, more time, less spending, less. I mean, you save on babysitting, you spare on other things, and I mean, less commuting is even better for the planet. So it's would that be a sustainable solution? It's good. So this was a challenge, and on the top of that, one thing that we observed in this big organization is that with people sitting home and having to find ways around. I mean, at the end, you have much more flexibility, much more transverse, less hierarchy, less reporting, less meetings, less reporting to N+1, N+2, N+3, and it gives more. I mean, it's changing the whole organization charts in the banks, and that works quite well. So it's so I would say that was the big achievement of the COVID.
So in terms of regulations, what happened in Canada, and I'm sure what happened in France was, well, because we have the same dynamic where usually people are supposed to stay on the trading floors for risk and compliance. So we had to lift some regulations quickly to be able to allow people to work from home. Do you see other regulations, or maybe that regulation becoming permanent in the future following COVID?
I think this was, it's not about, it's not talking about less regulation, getting rid of regulation. And you know that in financial market, regulation is something we know quite well. I mean, if you look at the last 10 years, there was not, I don't think that there was a year without a new MiFID, EMIR, SFTR, LCR. There is always a new ratio, a new regulation to cope with. Which was needed, but which is sometimes in the day-to-day quite happy to manage. So it's not about talking about getting rid of everything, but more about finding ways around and being sometimes for a period of time a bit more flexible. Regulation and for example in Europe, the way the ECB had to manage to give access to liquidity to investment banks, at the end they had to ease the concentration limits, the ratios, the eligibility criteria. So there are things that give a wider access to a bigger number of financial institutions. So that goes, I would say, in the right direction. So it's not less regulation, but a more agile, a more flexible regulation.
So your bread and butter and your expertise is really in global markets, in capital markets. So where do you see the global financial order going? Obviously, a lot of sovereign debt right now. We've seen a lot of cyber risks as well. We see protectionism. What's your thought on the new financial and the new global order?
More debt, yes, more debt, much more government debt. Much more. So I mean, the good thing is that as far as everybody is having more debt, then the paradigm has changed. So it's not only one state that borrows more. It's all of the global markets. More debts in Europe. It's also for certain negative rates for longer time. So you know that we will have to cope with this strange negative rates environment. More debt is also not only what's new in Europe is that it's not only on the state side, but you have also the role of the ECB and the soon launch of a new euro denominated debt on behalf of all states, so a joint bond. So that's adding an extra layer, an additional layer of debt, of course. And the question is, I would say, is so basically the ECB had to put everybody in abundance, easy liquidity situation. And the question is when and how you get out of this free money environment. So when do you think it's a good time for the ECB to start strengthening the monetary policy?
Mm-hmm.
And the second question is, while you get access to so much free cash today, I mean, 2 weeks ago, the ECB gave 1.3 trillion euros at negative 1% to basically everybody who had a banking license. So the second question is, while you get access to this free money, as a state or as a financial institution, do you take advantage of this very easy environment to take the decision to do the structural reorganization? Do you do this painful reorganization, which in some cases, everybody knows that it needs to be done, or you just leave easily with the free money as long as it is easier. So it's when you get out and how you get out of this easy environment, and that's the question, I think.
And so in terms of resetting the competitive positioning, so obviously that was a massive disruptive event. So we're discussing a bit offline, incumbents think they're going to win, fintech thinks they're going to win from what's happening. What's your perspective?
I would say the key word is innovation, digital transformation. I would say the way you have to or flexible or agile or quick you can answer to this extraordinary situation. And I will say that as far as Europe is concerned, I know Europe, the financial market is still quite fragmented. That's all financial institutions are not at the same stage in terms of digital transformation. The biggest investment bank have done or are in the middle of the transformation. They've done it, either doing it themselves or when startups, and that's my recent experience, when startups were addressed more rapidly the issues with consumer, with client service, with employee environment, working environment. And then the bank, the second stage is that most of the time in Europe, then the bank merge and partner with the startup. So on one side, you have these banks who don't realize how critical it was and are doing it since 5-10 years. And on the other hand, I would say that other institutions like insurance companies, investment managers, custodians are far away from full integrations of digital. So that's basically the leaders, the winners, if we can say that we win from the COVID, but the winners are the ones who had their transformation done and the others and the losers are the ones who are far away, far from there.
So staying on this digital transformation topic for, I would say, large FIs. So you mentioned strategic partnership with, fintechs or smaller organization. Is it the type of transformation you see the ones who have not really done a lot right now are going? Do you see things maybe where I've seen a lot of internal developments done in the past, which I don't think is the right way to go, but that's another story. Where do you think the digital transformation for this large FI is gonna go next?
Wider, I mean, there are many issues to be addressed. The most of the job, I will say, is done in terms of currency transfers, in terms of secure payments, in terms of, I mean, a lot has been done. And now you see new questions addressed like customer information, like I know that a lot is developed in the insurance world with these very old-fashioned and heavy admin, a lot of paperwork. So you have this startup developing new. So I would say that it's an ongoing process with many because a bank or a financial institution is many many works, many jobs inside. I mean, a lot of competencies, and a lot to be done. So it's still an open world for a startup and fintechs.
Yeah. And last question, which is a lighter question. So what changed in your life in terms of maybe picking up new habits? I know you moved, so that was definitely a big thing. But do you think there is a David 2.0 coming from COVID on the other side?
I don't know whether it's a 2.0, but it's yeah. I think. I mean, you can't get out of this outbreak without any. It will not be responsible to get without any change. So I didn't change my life. I didn't quit Paris or London to become a farmer in the countryside. So I didn't do that such thing, which I mean is not something I mean, is definitely something I could do at some stage, but not now. But I mean, we all have in our we all know someone of close friends, family who caught the COVID. So it's with sometimes dramatic outcomes. So it's definitely something that that's an event, that's a once a life event. So that puts things in perspective. And I think it's up to everyone to decide what little things. I think it's more about these little things that you can change in your life, in your day to day. That at the end, one after the other, and you and your neighbors and your colleagues, if everybody does makes small efforts, then it changes positive. So I did change a few things. I mean, commuting, cycling rather than using the car, or changing a few things in the diet as well. Some of these little things that maybe at the end will. It's a small contribution, but
and to your
that's
point, I think many people are doing the same thing, so it adds up, you know. So
definitively.
yeah, I was chatting with someone else who was also doing the interview, and what he was mentioning was the sense of community and the fact that it's probably also brought people together. I don't know how it was for you and your experience in both London and Paris, but I think here in Canada, people have been pretty good at you know, checking out on the elderly person living in front of the street and doing their groceries and things like that. So
I was going to add exactly, and also caring for your family, your friends. I mean, being locked down for 2 months, we all did this Zoom and house party things and doing virtual drinks and just calling friends. How do you do? Are you safe? Is your family safe? Are you fine? And I mean, more getting back to these values, which is I think maybe we forgot too much about that.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, David, for taking the time
You're
to
very welcome. It was my pleasure.
and thank you for giving us your perspective from the other side of the pond and with a capital market twist, which is very interesting. So thank you again.
You're welcome. My
Thank you.
pleasure.
Bye, David.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.